All right, so thank you for tuning in and jumping a bit. I am Kyle Letters, of course. Hope you're doing well out there. And if you've been paying attention, past few episodes I've been talking about college football realignment. I'll get back to that future episodes, of course, because there's constantly news going on with that. Nothing major yet, but kind of want to put that on the back burner for now and talk about a couple players in the NBA who are making news for different reasons, and I do find it kind of fascinating with a couple of them. So I kind of want to dive into that, talk about, my thoughts on one, Dame Lillard, who got a contract extension that I'll talk about, the Kevin Durant trade situation, which, if you think about it, is really interesting because what we've seen from Kevin Durant's, demeanor with the teams that he leaves and the fact that he's looking to move on, where could he possibly go that he'd be happy to stay there, and why GMs probably are a little bit cautious in terms of dealing with him. And then, of course, Donovan Mitchell will be the third guy that I want to talk about because his situation could be changing very soon. But I'll get into that a little bit deeper, as I get into this episode, of course. So, a little bit more NBA offseason. Now, teams have been making moves. I'll probably wait on another episode to really get into some of the moves that have happened recently that I do like. We have Summer League going, so NBA, although it's in its off season, is kind of still in full swing. But like I said, let's go ahead, get into these three players, and let's have some fun. So hopefully you enjoy the episode. Now, like I said, there's a few players out there who have been in the news for a couple of weeks now. I think I want to start with Kevin Durant because his situation is very interesting to me, where you'd be crazy as a team looking to upgrade your talent to not call Brooklyn and make an offer for him. But because of Durant's past, meaning he was with Oklahoma City, they seem like they were on the come up, he leaves there. Him and Russell Westbrook, whatever, they may have had a little beef. He got out. He's, in a perfect situation, seems like with Golden State, where, they're winning. It seems like it's coming easy to him with Steph Curry. It seems like they're going to be a force for years to come. Basically, the first chance he got, he left there because he didn't feel like he was getting enough love. Which I do think once the Kevin Durant career is over and you're writing his biography, I think he's going to realize that move may have been the worst decision that he's made in his career. Because imagine how many rings he may have if he'd stayed in Golden State. Sure, it wasn't a move that was favorable in the NBA community. And that's something that we definitely learned throughout that, is that he pays attention to a lot of what people say. I mean, it's gotten to the point where if I were to go on Twitter and make some comment about him, there's a good chance he could reply back to me. And I'm not an NBA analyst. I'm just a guy sitting behind a microphone on a podcast. But he's been known to go at people who say things about him. And then he gets his way to Brooklyn. Seems like that's where he wants to be. Where it's going to be brand new to him. He's going there with his friend Kyrie Irving. They bring in James Harden. It looks like, hey, this could be Golden State all over again. A couple of rings as he's getting up there into the mid-30s. That falls apart. Brooklyn made the ultimate commitment to him. I believe in what's like 3 seasons or something. He gave them 90 games, 0 rings, 0 finals appearances. That's NBA Finals or Eastern Conference Finals. But 1 major circus sideshow. Whether it's, Kyrie and vaccination status or whatever. Harden getting sick of Kyrie. Bringing in Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons not playing. Durant having one of his worst playoff series against the Celtics. It all crumbled quickly. So for Brooklyn, sure, Durant's put in the request for a trade, but that doesn't mean Brooklyn should just take, pennies on the dollar. We heard over the weekend they made an offer to Minnesota for Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, first-round picks for Durant. Now, of course, Minnesota's not going to take that seriously, but that's the kind of haul they should take for Durant. But if I'm another team trading for Durant, I have to basically gut my core to bring him in, and then there's no guarantee he's going to be happy there in a year or 2. So I could be gutting my team to rent a guy who's then going to find his way out of town, and then I'm left with a gutted team having to rebuild. So I feel like with each day that goes by, there's a chance Durant starts the season in Brooklyn, and then that's going to be a complete mess. We still don't know about Kyrie, if he's staying, going. He's telling people he's going to be in LA. Haven't seen it yet. I don't see how that happens unless you're dealing Kyrie for Westbrook. Now you're going to put Westbrook and Durant back together again. It's a mess, but that's Brooklyn's problem. We'll definitely have to see over the coming weeks if that gets solved or not. But I just find it interesting. Like, what team is going to do that for Durant? I know he wants to go Phoenix, Miami, or whatever, but I just don't see it happening. Next guy, like I said, the Damian Lillard extension, which I think I heard about like Sunday, which is interesting because Portland got an extension done with him. Extra 2 years, like $122 million. Yes, those numbers are correct. I did not make that up. And so let's see. So Lillard's basically in Portland until I think 2026-27, I believe. Basically, he's going to finish his career in Portland. I mean, he's 31, 32 years old right now. You're looking like 5 years down the line. 37 years old for Lillard, who's a, undersized point guard. I don't know if he plays much longer than this contract anyway. So, with that, a couple of things came to mind. One, the NBA could have, I don't know if it's a contract issue, but I think some of these owners are going to start, maybe getting upset with, some of the money that's getting thrown around. Now, of course, the teams are offering it and the players are just taking it, of course, but it's going to get to a certain point where it's just utterly ridiculous. Now, Lillard's been in Portland his whole career. For the most part, Portland hasn't really been a contender at any point in his tenure. And now you're throwing even more money. So from here to the end of the contract, he's going to make an average of $50 million a year. That's $50 million a year for a guy who, would you say he's a guaranteed MVP candidate? No. Would you say Portland's a guaranteed title contender? No. If Lillard, has a normal season, he's an all-NBA player, yes. But if I'm paying a guy $50-60 million, I got to get a ring out of that. I mean, shouldn't that be the expectation? And if you look at Portland's roster, Lillard's clearly their best player. And then after that, they're kind of relying on young guys. You know, hopefully they develop. But in that development, how long are we talking here? So like I said, let's say you have 5 years left of Lillard. So is Portland going to be a contender by year 3? And that's banking on Anthony Simons continuing to develop. That's Shaedon Sharpe, the guy they just drafted. That means that pick has to hit. They brought in Gary Payton from Golden State. He's going to have to take on a bigger role now at this point. They would re-sign Nurkic, their low post player. He's going to have to become more reliable because he's had some injury history as well as Lillard has these past couple of years. But after that, I mean, they did get Jeremy Grant. I'm not sold on Jeremy Grant necessarily. A couple of years ago, he was like the hot trade commodity. He went to Detroit. Didn't really have the best. Was he there for like 2 years? Wasn't exactly his best years. So he's looking to kind of, reclaim some of his standing in the NBA circles in Portland. Portland's going to be an interesting, case study for the next couple of years, because my thing has been, if your two best players are point guards on the small side, I mean, Lillard's 6'2", Simons is 6'3". Now Sharpe is 6'6", that's good size, but Simons and Lillard are the two best players. Teams like that usually don't succeed in today's NBA. Now, Golden State, yes, they did just win a title with Steph Curry being their best player. But Lillard isn't a Steph Curry. Don't get me wrong, Lillard is a good player, but I feel like Steph Curry gives you more off the ball than Lillard does. Lillard is more of a on-ball, ball-dominant guard, and at his height, I just don't know how well that succeeds in today's NBA. And for the money he's making, now, Portland isn't exactly, Boston or New York, where if he was making that kind of money there, that fan base would expect titles. And if it didn't happen, they would let him know about it. I think in the Portland community, since he's been there so long and he's active member in that community, I think those Portland fans will just be happy with the fact that he's staying there. But I'm sure they're going to want at least playoff appearances. So I guess for me, big question is, in these 5 years with Lillard, will Portland win a ring? As currently constituted, I don't see it happening. And then if that's the case, is the contract worth it? That's something I can't answer right now, but something I'll definitely be paying attention to next season and for the seasons to come, to see if Lillard stays healthy and how well, Simons and Sharpe can develop, and can Lillard take them to that next step? Because for the most part of his career, they've been one and done in the playoffs. I don't know if that's going to fly anymore up in Portland. And then, so the last guy, Donovan Mitchell. So, if you remember, I said when the season ended, Utah was going to make a move on Gobert or Mitchell. They moved Gobert already, that deal with Minnesota. And I think at that point I kind of assumed, okay, so they're going to try to make it work with Mitchell, unless if Mitchell, of course, pulls a Durant and says, I want out. Now, whatever reason, we got an update a couple of days ago saying Utah's now listening to offers for Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell's another guy who's had an interesting career to me because we all understand his talent offensively. Defensively, he's still kind of a liability. But, you know, Utah had great regular seasons while he was there, while he's been there. But the playoff success hasn't followed, much like Lillard in Portland or some other guys around the league that are leading some of these teams. And I wonder what Utah can get for Mitchell and then who is going to be actively pursuing him. There's a couple of teams I can think of off the top of my head. Miami being one, because Mitchell would be an upgrade over Kyle Lowry. And going to Miami, Mitchell isn't head and shoulders the best player on that team, because we know Miami goes as Jimmy Butler goes. So Mitchell would be sliding into like a 1B2 role. And I kind of think that's the guy, that's the type of player Donovan Mitchell is. In Utah, he was 1A, 1B. Sometimes he was the number 2 guy because late in games, they would give him the ball, get out of his way, and hope he would make a play. The other team, I guess, is New York, because we know that New York loves to chase big names. I believe Donovan Mitchell's from the New York area, I think. So that could be a fit. And just to backtrack, so if Miami, you're looking at a package starting with Tyler Hero and going on down. Knicks, I guess you'd have to offer RJ Barrett and picks and probably another young piece. We know with Danny Ainge out in Utah, he's going to look to get a big haul for a big name. And one thing I did think about was, with Mitchell now being on the trade market, supposedly, Durant being on the trade market, since he's told everybody he wants out. And I think a lot of the same teams would be in on both guys. But who... so this is my question to you. If you were running a team and you had to target either Donovan Mitchell or Kevin Durant, who would you go after? It may sound like a crazy question, but if you think about it, dive a little deeper into it, it's actually not. Because, yes, each player comes with pros and cons. Donovan Mitchell, great scorer, not so good as a defender, and doesn't really have a lot of playoff success under his belt. At least his teams don't. So you kind of have to question, can you win with him being your best player? Durant, I've already outlined it. You don't know where he's going to be mentally. If you trade for him, you don't know how long he's going to be committed. He's getting up there in age as well, so that's something you have to factor in. He's mid-30s right now. Donovan Mitchell is much younger. And yeah, so it's fascinating. Like, if you look at the two players side by side, Durant seems like a no-brainer. But because of some outside factors, it becomes more of a question. And I mean, I would believe Mitchell's probably more likely to get traded before Durant. But you never know, because it's the NBA and it's crazy like that. But yeah, so those three guys are names you'll probably hear about a lot during the offseason. Maybe Lillard not so much now that he's gotten his deal, but Mitchell, Durant, two big names on the trade market. I'm sure a lot of teams will be positioning to try to go after those guys, but I think Durant probably guarantees a better chance at a title. It's just that it's going to have to be the right team. And if you're trading for him, you can't give up too much. Otherwise, there is no guarantee he's going to want to stay there for too long. And then Mitchell, if you trade for him, hopefully you have another guy in the team who's your number one option, your defined leader, and you're bringing in Mitchell to be that second option, and probably you're a defensive minded team looking for an offensive guy who can get you a bucket when needed. So, and that's not even talking about Kyrie Irving as well, who's still somewhat out there. Can the Lakers figure out a way to get him, since it seems like the Lakers want him and he wants to be in LA? But seeing how his tenure's been in Brooklyn, I mean, it's been awful there. It's actually been awful for Kyrie since he's left Cleveland, but because of that, maybe Brooklyn doesn't want to give him what he wants. Maybe they'll push him off somewhere else and he becomes that team's problem. So the NBA, it's fascinating. This Lillard extension, even though it's only 2 years, but at that kind of money, what does that do for market value for some guys who may be coming up soon? That's a question we're at to wonder. I think the bargaining agreements in like a couple of years. Will owners try to do something to, maybe bring down some of these annual salaries or whatever? I think the NBA could be heading to a real awkward place, but like I said, that's for down the line. But so thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to talk about those guys real quick because, like I said, I think it's fascinating. Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant sitting on a trade block together when, guys like that you would usually be looking to build around to try to win a title. And these are guys who could be sent away to try to start over somewhere else. But yeah, so let me know what you think. Are you a Durant fan? Would you want him on your team? Or would you prefer to take on Donovan Mitchell, who's the younger guy? I guess you have to say is more upside. And do you think he can be the best player on a team that wins a title? Let me know. You already know what to do. Drop it down in the comments section. If you follow me on Twitter at Chompin Podcast, should be linked wherever you're listening to this. Follow me there. You can let me know over there what you think. But yeah. Also, remember, I will be doing an episode with a top 5 list. Now, this week will be the first one, and I'm going to do, I guess to give you a little preview, I'm going to be doing my top 5 rivalries in sports. But you can help me out by dropping a suggestion, once again, in the comments section or over on Twitter. Let me know what top 5 lists you'd want me to do. And if I select yours, I'll shout you out in the episode. Like I said, trying to make this more interactive, so I think this is a great way to get it done. But definitely listen out for that episode when it comes out later this week. I think it should be fun, and it's something I'm looking forward to be doing every week. But thanks again if you were new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, go on back, check out some previous episodes. Like, subscribe, share. If you subscribe or hit the notification bell, you'll get notified whenever I drop an episode. Easiest way to follow the show. But yeah, so thanks again. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're having a great day. As I always say, be safe out there. God bless. And I'll catch you on the next episode. All right, I'm out.